good surveys, good follow-up. You know, the better you guys can be in collecting the data, the better we're going to be able to analyze it. I mean, this is a team effort, and it's a team effort all the way through, from the design until we get the final paper written. This is a team effort to make it work. And so when you look at the design of the birth cohort, you'll see that we've got a million things that we're measuring. And part of the reason that we're measuring those is so that we can control for them in our final analysis. And we can look at how much of the effect that we see in uranium comes from these co-exposures to other metals. So maybe they're exposed to uranium, but they're also being exposed to mercury and lead and zinc and these other things that are interacting in maybe really complicated ways that are contributing to the outcomes that we see. And it's not just uranium, it's the conglomerate of the waste. Looking at nutritional deficits, things like the iodine deficiency that we talked about, that's critical. Whether the moms are young versus older moms. Whether this population is the same as what we saw in the Dene project, where the average age was 55. Do we see the same thing in 55-year-olds as opposed to what we're seeing in the birth cohort, where you guys think you're recruiting older moms, and you are to some extent, but the average age in the birth cohort right now is about 26. The last nutritional assessment that was published on Navajo was 1981, and it wasn't pretty. It was really not good at all. It's never been followed up. I mean, that's just astonishing.
Who did the study?
I can't remember now. I've got it. I can send it to you. But yeah, it was 1981. That's a long time ago. And so, for us to be even looking at the few micronutrients that we're looking at in the biomonitoring is huge. But if we can go back and analyze those FFQs and really start getting those nutritional pictures of what's happening in the population, that's something that you can look at an intervention on a very short term, and that's something real easy to provide back to the people in the study. So I can't overemphasize the importance of this study in so many ways, and for you guys to convey that to the moms is huge. They don't have to be exposed to uranium. They don't have to be exposed to anything. They're still contributing a huge amount to what the birth outcomes on Navajo are going to look like 10 years from now. And that's important. So up until now, we kept talking about the NHANES data set. That's the national data set, hundreds of thousands of people. CDC collects the samples, does the analysis, same lab that analyzes our sample. This is the 95th percentile of NHANES for the country as a whole. And up until now, we've been comparing Navajo data with those standards, not standards, they're not health-based, they're just descriptive of what the rest of the population in the country looks like, just so we can get an idea of, are people in Navajo carrying more of a uranium burden than the rest of the country. This is the 95th percentile for the people in the Navajo birth cohort study. You can see that that is above. And over here we've got the numbers. So we've got 70% of our samples that are greater than the 50th percentile. So we're 20% of our population is higher than we would predict based on the national picture. Baby, baby, baby. We've got lots of babies that exceed the 95th percentile of adults in this country. And considering that this is, we're looking at accumulation over a lifetime, in the adults we're looking at that material coming off the bone. We're looking at babies at delivery. They haven't even been out in the world yet. So we don't have the values to actually calculate placental transfer. That's a whole process in and of itself. But one would certainly suspect that this is coming via mom and going across the placenta to the babies. If we look at babies at delivery, so this is now the upper one of these bottom lines is our 50th percentile, the bottom one is the national population, and again the 95th for our study and for the NHANES. So you can see the number of babies above the 50th percentile, and here at 2 to 6 months you can see we have more babies that are above the 50th percentile. And what's not on here, and I'm not quite sure why, we have one baby actually that we have a sample from 12 months, and he is also above the 95th percentile.
looks kind of significant, right?
It would, yeah.
But statistically, I don't know. But the point is that our reference range is, the 50th and 95th have been moved up for Navajo people.
Yeah, but you're using adult data here.
That's all we've got. No, and
Alrighty.
you're right. And usually I make a point of that. We don't have any data on babies to compare to.
Well, the reason you don't, because you wouldn't expect anything in babies.
Right.
Well, but I mean, there are not many places where there are exposures, so you would not.
Well, you know, dietary exposure is not insignificant throughout the country. Potatoes, wheat, there is a fair amount of uranium that everybody in the country gets exposed to. So we would expect people on Navajo to have, and in the whole Southwest, to have higher exposures because we live in areas that have a lot of uranium. So
When you're looking at babies above adults, with these numbers, it's staggering.
yeah,
These are staggering, I know.
yeah,
So,
no, they are. Given that the word on the street, the dogma in the scientific world was that it's never going to get into babies, so why are you even doing the study? And you know, we don't know that this has any implications for health. And I want to make that really clear. We do not know anything about the health impacts of this. It does concern me a great deal.
and keep me in contact with these families, because the only way we're going to understand this is by understanding developmental trajectories. It's a line for each child, so that you got birth, 2 to 6, 12, and hopefully beyond that. And it's that developmental line that's going to give us the key to this. And so y'all having good relationships with these people, having the follow-ups, it's going to have an incredible impact on what we understand here. These are people's lives that we really have to come to understand. Well,
And this is just, it's critical information as far as I'm concerned. And it's, you know, it's something that is going to have such long-term impacts. This is not okay. It is not okay to be having babies born and continuing in the first year of their life to accumulate uranium. It's just not okay. And we can't accept this. You know, we've got to be able to follow these kids long enough to understand what's going on here, to understand where it's coming from, to be able to prevent these exposures, to be able to offer hope back to these families. And I think this is just, it's absolutely critical.